The name of this course is Industrial Homogeneous Catalysis Principles and Mechanism. It's a pleasure to be here today. I am having a background of both synthetic organic chemistry as well as inorganic chemistry, precisely organometallic chemistry, where we try to deal with metal as well as organic synthesis. Now, often, as you know, metal organic complexes are quite reactive. If in particular there is a metal carbon bond formation, these sort of complexes are quite widely used in industry. Therefore, their usage in industrial chemistry becomes inseparable. You may be familiar with quite a lot of versatile transformations or synthetic reactions where metals are used. These sort of metal organic complexes, which is known as organometallic complexes, are essential for pharmaceutical synthesis, various material synthesis, agrochemical synthesis, and in many aspects of both academia and industry, we will find these organometallic complexes. Perhaps more familiar or everyone's known methods are the Suzuki coupling reactions, for example, or Buchwald-Hartwig coupling reactions, Heck reactions, Negishi reactions. These are the name, I think, synonymous with industry, as well as these are very effective processes. Now, throughout these courses, we will try to discuss each of these industrially relevant reactions, the benefits as well as the drawbacks of these reactions. We'll try to find out what are the raw materials required, what are the underlying principles that govern the product formation. Of course, you may be also familiar with many other organometallic reactions that includes hydrogenation reactions, Monsanto acetic acid process, Sonoga-Ashira coupling reaction, just to name a few. We can literally have versatile transformations. These are usually organic transformation, but with the help of inorganic chemistry, so to speak, organometallic chemistry. Now, in any industrial organic molecule synthesis, there may be multiple steps. These multiple steps may not necessarily all be requiring the use of metal. Some of the steps may not use the metal at all. But then again, some other steps cannot be implemented without the assistance from metal. So our discussions will be precisely towards those transformations where we will have a role of metal center. Well, so far we are indicating these metal complexes. Let us look at some of the metal complexes and some of their properties. One of the way we try to tell whether a metal complex will be reactive or not towards a particular reaction is by their electron count. So we try to see that we take a metal, of course, as you would understand, that these metals are not in its reduced form completely. It is usually in somewhat oxidized form. For example, if you are working with iron, iron can be in +2 oxidation state or +3 oxidation state. It is never iron 0 which we are looking for doing organometallic chemistry without any ligand. Of course, iron 0 chemistry still can be possible, but often we are looking at high valent metal species like iron 2 plus or iron 3 plus. Of course, for iron, we can also have iron 4 plus, iron 5 plus, and in select cases, we can also have iron 6 plus. Now, if you have these metal ions are not going to be residing into the reaction mixture just by itself. It requires ligand. It requires something which can stabilize it. I think this is predominantly where the reactivity aspects comes into picture. You have a metal ion and you have ligand or something that is holding the metal ion, right? Let's look at little bit complex structure. This is a rhodium 1 complex. You have a phosphine, phosphorus, another phosphine. So this phosphine will coordinate with the rhodium center. There is a carbon monoxide, there is another carbon monoxide and a hydride. Now, of course, this is a little bit complex molecule. Let me just tell you any other simple molecule. Let's say hexa-aqua iron 2 plus complex. Now, you must be familiar with electron count of each of the metal centers as well as their corresponding cationic state, or if possible, wherever possible, the anionic state as well. For iron center, just simple iron 0, as you know, it has total 8 electrons. Now, hexa-aqua iron complex, if it is iron 0, just a imaginary complex, if it is iron 0, 6 water molecule, each water molecule oxygen atom will be coordinating with the iron center. That means 6 water molecule will be coordinating with the iron center through the oxygen atom. Now, often these sort of complexes, you see that iron 2 plus is formed. That means iron is no longer having 8 valence electron. It will have, I said iron 0 is 8 electron. Now iron 2 plus will then have 6 electrons. And this 6 water molecule that is surrounding it will have 2 electrons each. That means 2 times 6, 12 electrons, and iron 2 plus having 6 electrons. So 12 plus 6, 18 electron complex. Let me repeat once more. We are taking a iron 2 plus hexa-aqua complex. Of course, there is some counter anion that we are not worried about because they are not associated with the metal center directly. Hexa-aqua means it is going to be a octahedral complex. In the equatorial plane, you will have 4 water molecule binding the iron center, and from the axial sides, you will have 2 water molecules. So overall, you have 6 coordination. 6 water molecule, each water molecule donating 2 electrons. That means total of 12 electrons. Iron 2 plus, iron was 8 electron system. Iron 2 plus is 6 electrons. 6 plus these 12 electrons from 6 water molecules. That means total 18 electrons. Of course, this rule, usually referred as 18 electron rule, it governs the complexation reactions. Often we, as a preliminary stage or preliminary state of studies, we say that complexes try to form 18 electron species, such as I said, iron 2 plus hexa aqua complex. Now, in this complex, if you look at, it is a rhodium. If you remember, rhodium itself without any oxidation state, rhodium 0, it is a D7S2 system, right? Total 9 electron. Now, rhodium 1 plus, this rhodium 1 plus over here will then have 8 electron. Rhodium itself was having 9 electrons, right? Rhodium D7S1. From D7S2, from there 1 electron goes out, so total 9 electrons to 8 electrons you get. Now each of the ligand which is holding the metal center, in this case phosphine and phosphine, this is called a bidentate ligand because this one big species attaching with the metal in a bidentate chelating fashion. So two ends of the ligand binds with rhodium 1, that gives us 4 electrons, 2 electrons from here and 2 electrons from here. So total 4 electrons we do have. Rhodium 1 was how many electron? It was 8 electron. Rhodium itself, rhodium 0 is D7S2, rhodium 1 plus would be 8 electron system. So now in the system we have 8, 2 and 2, total of 12 electrons. Now a ligand such as carbon monoxide can also participate in bonding with this metal center, can give 2 electrons. This CO can also give 2 electrons. So 2, 2, 2, 2, 8. 10, 8 plus 2, 10 plus 2, 12 plus 2, 14 plus 2, 16, and the hydride H minus, which giving the charge rhodium 1 plus, hydride is also going to give 2 electrons. So overall, this is also going to be a 18 electron species. Now, these sort of example, I would expect you would be able to go and practice by yourself. We can help you out if there is any trouble of counting the electron. Once again, I would like to reiterate, the metal ion itself, we are not talking about neutral metal, means metal is in zero oxidation state. Metal is in oxidized state often, sometimes it can be reduced form, very rarely, but it is possible. But metal is in either oxidized or reduced state, whatever it is, usually it is oxidized state. We will have cation formation and these metal centers will be supported by ligands. These ligand can be monodentate ligand, just like as you see over here, carbon monoxide is a monodentate ligand because it is holding to the metal by one side or one side. Hydride is a monodentate ligand. Carbon monoxide is a monodentate ligand. On the other hand, this big organic molecule, the phosphine complex, is, or phosphine phosphide complex, is a bidentate ligand, right? So overall, the denticity of the ligand will be dependent on how many usually heteroatoms are present which are accessible to the metal center for binding. Often you will see if it is more than one heteroatom present, usually the requirement is 5 to 6 membered metalacycle formation. It can be sometimes 7, very rarely it can also be 8 and so on. But a monodentate ligand such as pyridine, carbon monoxide, hydride, chloride, fluoride, bromide, iodide are present in plenty. The monodentate ligand can be neutral, as you see in case of carbon monoxide or pyridine. It could be charged also, such as fluoride, chloride, bromide or hydride. Many such monodentate ligands are possible. But irrespective of that, you will see these monodentate ligands often are bound with the metal center by 2 electrons. So monodentate means one denticity gives 2 electrons for the stabilization of the metal. If it is a bidentate ligand, for example, as you can see over here, of course, water is a monodentate ligand. Water, one of the lone pair from the water oxygen will be coordinating with the metal center. There are plenty of hundreds of ligands, hundreds of organic moieties you can think of, which will be adding with the metal center. Now, bidentate ligands are also quite common, I would say. The most common ones you may have heard of, let's say bipyridine, means 2 pyridine joined at the ortho position and 2 nitrogen of the 2 pyridine will be holding the metal site. There are many other famous bidentate ligand. For example, catechol can be, orthocatechol can be, acting as a bidentate ligand. There could be, phenanthrolene based ligand, which is again quite famous, which is similar to bipyridine based ligand system, acetyl acetonate based ligand system, as you have seen the phosphine based ligand system in this slide. So there exist many examples, okay, like diol, many different diols are there, or diamine, diphosphine, many different ligands are there which can be bidentate. If it is bidentate, just once again, each ligand can give 4 electrons to the system because it is going to bind in a bidentate manner, right? It's going to hold it like that. 2 sides of interaction it is going to have. One side is giving 2 electron, others will be giving another 2 electron. Similarly, this ligand can also be tridentate or tetradentate. As you can imagine, that would be 6 electrons from tridentate. Tetradentate will give you 8 electrons. So overall electron count will vary accordingly. Depending on the books or the references you follow, this electron counting method may vary. Sometimes these people are following ionic method or covalent method. I think no need to really get confused or confuse yourself. You can just follow one method. For example, most often I would be referring to ionic method. As you can see here, rhodium 1 plus and hydride. Okay, so that's what I would be mostly thinking. It's an ion. It's an ion. Otherwise, covalent method should also give you the same electron count. Moving on to, let's say, another system. This is the famous Wilkinson catalyst. It has many different usages that will come slowly while we discuss in future classes. Rhodium 1 plus. So once again, it is D7S2 system for rhodium. Rhodium 1 plus would be from 7 plus to 9 electron, it would be rhodium 1 plus would be 8 electron system. So 8 electron system is rhodium 1 plus. But phosphine, and phosphine, these are neutral ligand. They are not charged ligand. They are giving electrons, 2 electrons each of the phosphines are giving to the metal center, right? So this rhodium, which is rhodium 1 plus, then where is the minus? This chloride is the anion. So this chloride 1 minus and rhodium 1 plus neutralizing each other. This is a neutral complex. Rhodium chlorotrisphosphine or triphenyl phosphine complex is known as Wilkinson catalyst. It's a fantastic catalyst for, let's say, hydrogenation reaction, decarbonylation reaction. There are plenty of usage of the Wilkinson catalyst. Now going back to the electron counts, so it is giving 2 electrons, 2 electrons, 2 electrons, total 6 electrons. Chloride Cl minus, that is again a monodentate ligand, which is going to give 2 electrons to the rhodium. So 4 ligand for metal center giving 2 electrons each. That means total 8 electrons we are going to get from the ligand system. Now rhodium 1 plus is also 8 electrons because rhodium itself is D7S2, 9 electrons. Rhodium 1 plus is going to be 8 electron system. So 8 plus 8 total, this is a 16 electron complex. Now, of course, it is not following that 18 electron rule for complexation, but this also means that these complexes are going to be reactive. It can lose a partner to go to 14 electron species. It can add something to it to go to the 18 electron species. So this flexibility is going to be essential if we are to discuss the organometallic chemistry. What I am trying to tell you is these ligand, as you can see, phosphine ligand here, phosphine ligand here, phosphine ligand here, and chloride there. These ligands are the one which are dynamic, meaning it can come out, it can get back in, come out, get back in, or it can be displaced by a better ligand. Okay. So these bonds between metal as well as these holders or so-called ligand, all of these are monodentate ligand, are breakable. These are stable bonding, but it is possible to break this bonding. Now, if you displace one of these ligand with another ligand, that you can call as ligand substitution reactions, right? For just for a thought experiment, let's say you added carbon monoxide or triphenyl phosphine or trimethyl phosphine, just another outside ligand you add in, let's say, large excess. What could happen then? Let's say predominantly one of the phosphine ligand will come off and a new ligand can get in that place. Okay, so these will be more of a ligand substitution reactions that we'll be discussing in many instances. Let's look at another example. So why we are taking rhodium, palladium, or these metals? Because these metals are used quite a lot in homogeneous catalysis. Of course, I presume you know the difference between homogeneous catalysis and heterogeneous catalysis. You should start reading and understanding the difference. But the great thing I can tell you is the homogeneous catalysis gives us an opportunity to understand the reaction mechanism, how things are going on in much greater detail. Characterizing heterogeneous catalysis and then extracting the mechanistic insight is going to be always challenging. In industry, although both homogeneous and heterogeneous catalysts are used, but often many cases we need to immobilize the catalyst in terms of avoiding the recyclization or recycling process, and as well as to lower the cost of the catalysis. Now this is a palladium complex. What is the oxidation state of palladium here? Palladium is palladium 2+ here. Palladium 2+, right? Because this is methyl MeCH3, right? Methane is CH4, methyl is CH3. CH3, this is minus because one of the proton has gone out. So this is 1 minus, CH3 minus. This is another minus, CH3 minus. So two negatively charged species, 1 minus, 1 minus. That means palladium is expected to be 2+. Of course, there are no other counteranion and other things preventing palladium from going to any other oxidation states and so on. In any case, so palladium is in 2+ oxidation state. Methyl is in 1 minus, 1 minus. Palladium, what is the electron count of palladium? It is D8S2 system, right? Total 10 electron. Just palladium itself without any oxidation state. As I explained, this palladium is 2+ because this nitrogen is neutral. There is no charge on nitrogen, no charge on this nitrogen, no charge, 1 minus charge on this one, 1 minus charge on this one. So palladium will be 2+ here. Nitrogen is neutral, this nitrogen is neutral, methyl is 1 minus, this methyl is 1 minus. So palladium 0 was D8S2, total 10 electrons. Since palladium, this palladium is essentially palladium 2+, that means it's an 8 electron system. Now methyl is going to have 2 electrons. So methyl 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of the ligand, that means 4 multiplied by 2, that many electrons are donated to the metal center. 8 electrons, palladium 2+, 8 electrons, 8 plus 8, 16 electrons. So this complex is 16 electron species. Okay. So far we have seen examples of 18 electron complexes as well as 16 electron complexes. These sort of complexes, these 16 electron complexes in particular, you will be seeing quite a lot. You can have even the lower electron system. So please study the 18 electron rule, the benefit of 18 electron rule, and where 18 electron rule is not followed, and what is the consequences of such metal complexes, whether they are reactive, how they are reactive. These are some of the questions we are going to try and answer throughout this course. I will be, as I was mentioning, we are trying to discuss little bit of the basics right now. Without the basic understanding, it would be really difficult and near impossible it becomes to discuss the homogeneous catalysis for industrial scale preparation of molecules. Moving on, another very famous system is this Strock-Osborne complex. It's a rhodium 1+ cod chloride or chloride halide complex, bis-cod complexes, right? So rhodium 1+, as we have discussed before, it's a D8 system or total 8 electron it is. So rhodium is D7S2 system. That means D7S2 means total 9 electron. 1 electron goes out in the form of rhodium 1+. that makes it 8 electron species. 2-cod or cyclooctadiene, it's an interesting ligand. As you can see, the drawing is quite fascinating, right? Both the side, 2 electrons are interacting with the rhodium center. Now, 2 olefins are bound with the rhodium center. Each of the olefin unit will give 2 electrons to rhodium. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 double bond are bound with rhodium plus. So 4 times 2 will have 8 electron system. So 2-cod is going to give you 8 electron system. Rhodium 1 plus is 8 electron system. Total we will have 16 electron complex. Once again, it's a 16 electron complex. Previously also, few cases that we discussed, it was 16 electron complex, as you have seen in many different cases. Right? Now, these complexes, Stokes-Osborn catalysis or Stokes-Osborn complex, you would see, is also quite efficient in hydrogenation reaction. What is hydrogenation reaction? You take an unsaturated molecule such as this olefin, which is called cyclooctadiene, double olefins are there. If you add hydrogen gas to this system, it will hydrogenate the olefin to give you, let's say, alkane whenever possible, or other exciting transformation can be designed by utilizing the great effect these complexes can promote. Let's look at another example. This is vanadium oxyacetyl acetonate complex. This is again a fascinating complex. If you see the drawing of acetyl acetonate, it is over here. 2 oxygen atoms can bind with the metal center. This oxygen atom need not be charged. One of them is charged, one of them is not, or they are highly conjugated. Overall, this is a bidentate ligand system, negatively charged, and 4 electrons are present into the system. So 4 electron donor is ACAC, and therefore overall this vanadium oxyacetyl acetonate will have 4 plus 4, 8 electron from acetyl acetonate. Oxo species, this oxo, it is like ox O2 minus, so it is going to be doubly coordinated with the metal center. That means 4 electron. Vanadium 6 plus, scandium, titanium, vanadium. It's a 5 electron system if vanadium is in 0 oxidation state, right? And if it is in vanadium 4 plus oxidation state, that means D1 system, or total 1 electron is present in vanadium. So vanadium itself is having 5 valence electron, D3S2, and if it is vanadium 4 plus, it is going to be 1 electron. Overall, we'll have then 8 plus 1 plus 4, total 13 electron species. Well, this is the beauty of these complexes. Despite not being 18 electrons process, 18 electron is coming from sp-d orbital, right? S can have 2 electrons, p can have 6 electrons, and d can have 10 electrons, total 18 electrons. But these complexes, as you can see, it can have odd electron, first of all. Second of all, it is far away from the 18 electron. Okay, now we'll come back to this sort of electron counting later. let's move on a little bit different. So the homework for all of you would be to take any metal complex, metal which is associated with ligand or ligands, and you try to see if you can count the electron for the total metal complexes. Okay, this would require the electronic configuration of each of the metal. If you can remember some of the mostly used metal, that would be good. If not, you can start looking at the periodic table, and periodic table will tell you what is the electronic configuration of the native metal center or neutral metal center, and from there on, depending on whether it is anionic or cationic, you can do the calculations. Now, one of the exciting part of the homogeneous catalysis or industrial metal complexes are that they are often using a ligand which is known as phosphine or the phosphorus based ligand complexes. Many metal phosphine complexes are used in industry in very large scale because these complexes are found to be in one hand stable, in another hand very, very reactive. Of course, these metal phosphine complexes can also many a time or often, more often than not, are air and moisture sensitive. That makes the overall development little bit slow, but overall we see that the metal and ligand association, it is going to be of different type. Okay, so for instance, if you have a metal center, you have seen rhodium, palladium, iridium or vanadium or whatever you have seen in the previous few slides. This ligand, as I was saying, in this case phosphine is going to give 2 electrons to the metal empty orbitals or vacant orbitals. So this is the phosphine ligand that is going to give these 2 electrons to the metal. So this is going to be a sigma bond between the ligand orbital as well as the metal orbital. Now, if that's the only one type of bond, one way of forming these sort of complexes, then the stability will be questionable. The stability of these complexes, metal phosphide complexes, often coming from this D to sigma star configuration or the electronic transfer. D orbitals are present on the metal center, but it is not present on the phosphine. So therefore, this configuration or this explanation of d-pi back bonding is not really valid. In many books, it is written invalidly or incorrectly. There is no d-pi transition in metal phosphine complexes. This is incorrect. As I said, this is incorrect. The other one is the more correct depiction of what is going on in the homogeneous catalysis in industry. This is what exactly is going on. This one over here, metal is getting electron from phosphine in a sigma donation, while these metal are also then participating in the back bonding reactions, right? These are metal back bonding to the metal d orbitals to p pi orbitals, or sigma star orbitals are the ones which are involved in this case. D to sigma star is these bondings are happening. This configuration or this electronic depiction is absolutely incorrect. D-pi transition is not, d-pi back bonding is not really happening in these cases. Sigma bonding and pi back bonding, this is happening exactly the way it is shown in here as well as in this system. Another interesting topic, which is the final slide for today's this session, that is the olefin complexes. Many a time you will see metal olefin is forming the complexes, right? So what can happen, this olefin pi electron is interacting with the metal center. So this is a sigma donation from the olefin to the metal center. Of course, just like before, metal can give back to the ligand as well to form a metal cyclopropane type of complex. Now the extent of donation will depend whether metal olefin complex is residing in this sort of state or metal olefin is more of a cyclopropane type of state. For example, if you are looking at here, this is zirconium. This is zirconium 4 plus. 1 minus, methyl is 1 minus, another anion is there outside, 2 cyclopentadiene is there. So 1 minus, 1 minus, 1 minus, and then anion, counter anion. So zirconium 4 plus. That means zirconium is going to be the D0 system. Zirconium can have total 4 valence electron, right? D2S2. Now zirconium 4 plus will not have any electron, valence electron available for back donation to the ligand. It can only happen in the forward sense where olefin is binding with the metal center. So olefin will be donating, since the metal is not able to back donate, we will see that this metal zirconium or zirconium olefin complex will be residing as it is, where olefin is a double bond, not a single bond. But if zirconium was having electrons, which we will see in the right hand side case, then we will have a cyclopropane type of structure as you see in here. Let's say in the right hand complex over here compared to this left hand complex over here, zirconium here is 2 plus. This is zirconium 4 plus. Methyl 1 minus, 2 Cp 1 minus is 2 minus, 1 minus, 3 minus, and counter anion is there, which is not drawn in here. It is 1 minus, like let's say trifluoride or chloride, bromide, iodide, whatever you want to think of. Now these zirconium is 4 plus D0 system. This zirconium is 2 plus, 1 minus, 1 minus is the cyclopentadiene complex, right? Cyclopentadienyl ligand system. Now, so this is 2 minus, zirconium is total 2 plus. Overall, then we have a 2 electron zirconium system, right? These D2 electron or 2 electrons from zirconium will be donated back to the olefin moiety. So olefin is giving the sigma bonding or forming sigma bonding with these electrons on olefin electrons. Now the back bonding will be also happening. Forward sense it is giving, olefin is giving, backward sense the zirconium metal is giving, and therefore this would be having a cyclopropane structure. In these cases, therefore, you will see this is no longer a double bond, it is more of a single bond. So if you get a crystal structure of this complex, you will see the bond length has increased significantly. Okay, so if you get a crystal structure of this complex, which is going to be very, very difficult, because stabilizing such complexes is difficult because the back donation is not possible. But in these cases, back donation is possible, and therefore we can get the cyclopropane molecule, and these are going to be more easily characterizable compared to these sort of complexes. Okay, so to sum up, the thing that we discussed today are the metal ion formation, something you are knowing. If you have forgotten a little bit, please refresh your memory. But this metal ion, once it is formed, usually it is helped or supported by ligand system. Now this ligand metal complexes electronic configuration we are trying to learn at the very beginning. This is something from any book you can study, any inorganic book or any organometallic chemistry book you can study. And subsequently, as you have seen, we have discussed few metal complexes. We can discuss few more if you wish, or throughout the class we will be discussing more. But more importantly, what we have seen that different metal ligand complexes can have different total electron count. Often 18 electron count is something preferred or metal complexes would like to reach, but most often than not that is not happening. And it is possible to even have 13 electron, 12 electron, 14 electron, 15 electron, 16 electron, 17, 18, these sort of electron formations or electronic complexes formations are possible. So we should be able to actually count the electron very easily, because this will determine how quickly we will be able to understand the reaction mechanism. Reaction mechanism we will be discussing at an advanced stage, but at this point we are trying to discuss the fundamental reactivity pattern. As you can see over here, this is how an organic molecule, which is olefin, and metal, which you can say inorganic and organic molecule, that is how it is interacting. This olefin, which is capable of donating electron to the metal, is acting as a ligand. The metal, which in return can return the favor to give you the cyclopropane, metallocyclopropane ring system, right? Depending on how much electron the metal is having, you will have either this orientation when metal is not having any electron left with it. If the metal is having good amount of electron, it can push back or give back to give you the metallocyclopropane type of system. Okay. Now, as you can see over here, as we discussed, in this complex, zirconium is 4+, D0 system. That means back donation is not feasible. It will be like more of a olefin, but over here it would be more of a metallocyclopropane. In the previous cases, we were also discussing how metal phosphine bonding is. You have seen a sigma donation and d p pi or d sigma star back donation. There is no d back transition. P is not having, phosphorus is not having any d orbital available, low lying d orbital available for back bonding. Well, with this, I would like to conclude today's first session. I will be happy to have your question at this point. Please study the fundamental of these homogeneous catalysis, which requires understanding an electron count nature or electron counting of the metal center, and also the ligand systems. Okay. I'm now coming out of the presentation. If you have any question, please feel free to ask. We can have questions from you at this point.
Sir, in the last slide, it's zirconium complexes. You have that complex with the both both the positives and with the negatives. So, can you explain it more? Like, okay, I could not get it.
Okay.
Why it's showing negative and why it's positive?
Okay, no problem. I'll discuss once more. Okay, can you see it?
No.
Okay, I
No,
think
this is.
I went out. Okay, let me see. Yeah, can you see now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So what I was saying, the difference between the left-hand complex and the right-hand complex is left-hand complex has a methyl, extra methyl, as well as there is an anion which is outside. Anion could be, let's say, chloride, which is outside. That's why it is zirconium plus. But overall, this zirconium is 4 plus. How? This Cp is, each Cp is 1 minus, so total 2 minus. Methyl is 1 minus, Me minus, 3 minus, and anion is outside. Total, it is zirconium 4 plus. So this anion, which is counter anion, which is outside, I have not drawn over here. So zirconium over here is zirconium 4 plus. That means a D0 system. Zirconium is D2S2 if you look at the valence electron configuration. That means zirconium over here is 4 plus. No electron left on zirconium. On the other hand, on the right hand side, if you look at, zirconium only has 2 negatively charged anion, Cp and Cp, 2 Cp. So that is zirconium 2 plus. That means zirconium is D2 system. Here zirconium was D0 system. Here zirconium is D2 system. Means this is where these 2 dots are drawn. You see the 2 dots? That means 2 electrons are there. These 2 electrons will be giving to the this antibonding orbital of the olefin. And that's why this bond will be elongated. The back donation will be feasible. Metal to ligand back donation will be feasible. But over here, there is no electron left on zirconium for back donation. That's why olefin remains as olefin. It is not becoming more of a alkane or cyclopropane type of system. It is not happening. So it stays on the left hand side in this case. But in this case, it goes on the right hand side. So this metal olefin, this is like fluctuating between the two. This one is predominantly, or I would say near exclusively on this form. This complex predominantly in this form. So these are two different complexes we are talking about, not the same complex. In one zirconium complex, we see olefin as olefin bound with zirconium. In another case, the olefin binds zirconium, but eventually it gets transformed into cyclopropane. I hope that is a little bit clearer.
Yeah, now perfect.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there any other question for today? Well, as I was mentioning, we need to really refresh a little bit of our memory in terms of the periodic table, just a little bit, specifically the transition metal. Those, I would say, those metals which are used in the catalysis, homogeneous catalysis, industrial scale catalysis quite well. Mostly the metal you are seeing so far, these and few more metals of course will be coming. If you can write down their electronic configuration, just the valence electron, I think that will help all of us, both me and you, all of you, to explain the the reactivity pattern, how they are reacting, and what is the problem in industrial scale, what is the origin of the problem, how to troubleshoot. Because that's what, if we don't understand really the chemistry point of view, basic point of view, the troubleshooting becomes, of course, there is an engineering aspect, some of these we will also be discussing, but the chemistry point of view, you have to understand where the problem is. In order to do that, you have to understand the chemistry at a very, very simple level. Okay, so please try to read a little bit to refresh your memory, and we'll be once again, if required, this 18 electron rule or electron count basically we need to know, and then how the different ligands are. You should perhaps look at little bit about the ligand. It could be monodentate ligand, bidentate ligand, or tridentate ligand mostly. Some tetradentate ligands are possible. Which are they? How they are bound with the metal center? How they behave? These sort of behavior in the first few classes we will be discussing. Because moving on to the next step would require this fundamental understanding. How the catalytic cycle is operating, why the yield of a reaction is low, what need to be done to improve the yield of the reaction, like how much product is forming. Okay, both the efficiency, the reaction time, side product formation, what are the other product forming, these understanding would require these fundamental basis. Okay then, so today we are, the first session we are closing over here. Okay, I am done for